So we looked at this Wall Street Journal article about the declining college rates for men. Have you seen this floating around?
No.
Dude,
Please go on.
This article's fucking scary. So I've known this for quite a while, but it's really just starting to hit mainstream media. And one of the reasons that it's probably not too popular amongst mainstream media is that it goes counter to a narrative that men are outperforming women, and there's this oppressive patriarchal construct that's misogynistically trying to keep people down, blah, blah, blah.
Are people still on that? Are people still on that
kick? Massively so.
Okay.
The number of men enrolled at 2- and 4-year colleges has fallen behind women by record levels in a widening education gap across the US. Men are abandoning higher education in such numbers that they will now trail female college students by record levels. At the close of the 2020-2021 academic year, women made up 59.5% of college students, an all-time high, in men 40.5%, according to enrollment data from the National Student Clearinghouse, a nonprofit research group in the US. Colleges and universities had 1.5 million fewer students compared with 5 years ago, and men accounted for 71% of that decline. In the next few years, 2 women will earn a college degree for every man. American colleges have yet to reach a consensus on what might slow the retreat of men from higher education.
I think people are... This could go a number of ways, this discussion. And this is critical to where we are, in society as a whole. How valuable is an education, and what about being a man would provide a man to say this isn't as valuable, as opposed to a woman? What about their psychology is saying that or allowing that to happen? And then also, in what way will the media suppress this? If the narrative is...
So I'm not convinced that the media can really suppress the stats. Like, you can, within 10 years, as you walk around on campus, you're going to see double the number of women as you do men. I don't know the equivalent for the UK, but in the US, that's going to be the case. Like, it's not about suppressing the stats. Like, there is no suppressing that. Some of the reasons that you could put forward for why this may have occurred is that there has been quite a negative environment for men generally in the universities. Quite rightly, women have had to have their spaces be made to feel better. The Me Too movement was like fucking long overdue to call powerful men to account for taking advantage of women. Yeah. But what it's done is it's taken quite a broad brush and applied that to all men, when the research suggests that it's a small minority of men that commit almost all of the sexual offenses. This is what David Buss discovered, evolutionary psychologist that I had on the show, that the vast majority of men aren't sexual predators, but a small number of men commit fucking tons of acts. But if you tar everybody with quite a broad brush, if you make it a little bit of a hostile environment in which men feel quite uncomfortable, then that's not so good. You've also got like the equivalent of affirmative action programs that promote girls' success within high school and within college applications. I'm not sure if you have outright sort of gendered discrimination when it comes to accepting into courses. I would imagine no. But I think it's significantly harder for boys to get through school if you are someone that's more physically minded, if you're someone who's got ADHD. But previously there was so much prestige and status associated with an education that you would be prepared to go through that. There's a lot of discomfort associated with me sitting on my ass and fucking having to learn all of this stuff. And I want to be outside playing or play fighting or building something or doing whatever. But I'll get through it because the college is going to be worth it. And, now 2-to-1 females to males within the next 10 years at college.
That is crazy. 2-to-1?
Yeah.
At every college. Here's the thing. And I think I might have talked about this on the last podcast that I did with you a year and a half ago, but colleges in America, and for those who are listening in the UK and the rest of the world, colleges in America are unlike anything you've ever fucking seen before.
What do you mean?
And all you have to do is go to a collegiate football game to understand exactly what I'm saying. They make millions of dollars off ticket sales per game. They make over, hundreds of thousands of dollars from anything from like selling apparel to food. TV rights, millions of dollars. All of this as a way, think about it like countries, what they do for the Olympics to kind of flex their prowess without actually having to go to war. This is what colleges are doing. And if
To
you
show their
don't,
prestige?
yes, yes, and it is a war. It is an all-out.
Today we're going to be talking about Gen Z going through their adulting phase. They're getting older now. They are aging out. They are no longer that demographic anymore.
This is the most humbled I've ever felt in my life. I'm literally holding resumes, a stack of them, so that I can go in person to places and say, are you guys hiring? It's honestly a little bit embarrassing because I'm literally applying for like minimum wage jobs, and some of them are being like, we're not hiring, and it's like, what? This is not what I expected. I graduated college with 2 degrees in communications and acting. I speak 3 languages. Oh, this sucks. Like, I just want to be a TikToker if I'm being so for real with you. But I can't be delusional anymore. Like, I literally need to make money.
What's up, YouTube? It's Tiny C, and I'm back with another YouTube video. I find this to be a very interesting topic because I feel like every generation goes through their quarter life crisis. I feel like I just came out of my quarter life crisis, so it's very much relevant, and I want Gen Z to have as smooth of an experience through this phase in their life as possible. So the first thing we're going to have to figure out is, what is a quarter life crisis? The quarter life crisis is a period of uncertainty and questioning that typically occurs when people feel trapped, uninspired, and disillusioned during their mid-20s to early 30s. People say that they might feel stuck in a dead-end job while all of their friends advance their careers, or wonder why they cannot seem to make romantic relationships last while other people are getting married and having children. I think other elements of this might be comparisons, seeing your friends, family, social media influencers, just having a successful life, living luxuriously, going on vacations, getting promotions, and then comparing their life to yours, and that comparison making you feel horrible about yourself, feeling like you're behind, feeling like just life is slipping away from you without you having any control of stopping it. I feel like another element of the quarter life crisis is just that realization that you are no longer the youth of the world. They're getting older now. They are aging out. They are no longer that demographic anymore. It's all very hard, and I think that all is coming together for them at once, and it's just hard to ignore. In comparison, what was adulting to millennials?
Why do millennials say adulting? It's because we're doing things that adults do, but not getting adult results. See, when the boomers were coming up, they worked all the live long day, and what they get for it? They got a house. But when my generation works all the live long day, we get maybe a granola bar, if it's on sale today.
Adulting was really about realizing how difficult it is to be
Most people are not aware of it or haven't thought very carefully about it because it doesn't seem to matter to us. This is getting to be so serious that we are reaching a cathartic moment, and I do think it's started. Let's just look at the numbers first. M2 growth peaked at 27% in 2020 and has been slowing ever since. We believe it is closing in or might be below 3% on a year-over-year basis, which doesn't leave a lot of room for growth or inflation unless velocity is really picking up, the rate at which money turns over. And we're in an environment where we do not believe velocity is picking up. If anything, I think individuals and businesses are becoming more concerned and are spending less freely. If you look at M2 also, you'll see that it actually peaked in March. Now, this is very unusual to see sequential declines in money. We have not gotten back above that March peak, and we may not get back above it the way that Fed policy is going. And I think I'd like to build the case a little more here that the Fed is probably making a mistake. I say probably because I have to from a compliance point of view, but I really do believe the Fed is making a mistake. And reflecting a little bit more on the Jackson Hole speech that Chairman Powell gave in late August, we've come to recognize that Chairman Powell really does think he is the reincarnation of Chairman Volcker, that we need him to take a sledgehammer to inflation, much like Volcker did. And history has treated Chairman Volcker very kindly. He did turn the tide on inflation. Now, what he did, though, was he turned a tide that had been building for 15 years. It started in
In this video, I interview macro and monetary analyst John Rubino. John is also an author and is the founder of DollarCollapse.com. And you're about to hear his invaluable insight on what we should expect in regard to inflation, implications of printing more money, our nation's debt crisis, bank failures, and bailouts. We also discuss the Federal Reserve's plan to lower interest rates and what will happen should they decide quantitative easing to keep the economy moving forward. We also discuss the false job reports in 2023 and the potential for supply chain disruption as the Red Sea crisis heats up. John also talks about the U.S. housing market. We're about to enter the spring market, and typically this is the absolute busiest time of the year for buyers and sellers. But this year, it may be everything but typical. And John knows a lot about the housing market. He wrote the book on it. Back in 2003, John wrote a book predicting the 2008 housing market crash, and he was right. So when John talks, I listen with complete respect. Now, without further ado, I'm honored to introduce you to Mr. John Rubino. John, welcome to the show and thanks for your time. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and I want to know, why is it that you are right all of the time about predicting the markets?
Hey, Todd. Well, that's kind of you to say, but actually I'm wrong most of the time when I try to predict the markets. So especially anything to do with timing. Okay. So if I happen to slip up and mention what I think is going to happen in the next 3 months, either ignore it or do the exact opposite and you'll be fine. But, so a little of my background. I've been a finance nerd forever. Got an MBA in the 80s and worked on Wall Street for a while, and then started writing and have written or co-written 5 books on investing and ran a website for like 15 years called DollarCollapse.com, which was a basic gloom and doomy finance and investing site. Just sold that a couple of years ago to some crypto guys, who had a lot of crypto money and came in and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And now I'm doing a Substack newsletter at rubino.substack.com, which is mostly about actionable stuff, that things that we can do to prepare for what's probably going to be a really contentious and stressful decade based on all the debt we're taking on and all the other mistakes we're making. So far, so good with the Substack. It's an interesting community to be part of, and I'm enjoying the job.
Well, I happen to think that you're pretty daggone good at calling this stuff. I've read your books, a couple of your books anyway, and especially the one about leading up to the housing market crash, and that you wrote in 2000, or you published, I think, in 2003. So that was well before the market collapsed. And